let's get to my third choice. My third most favorite knot of all times. Okay, in 1931, there was an Austrian mountaineering guy, and there was an article published in a mountaineering magazine, and it was a fellow by the name of Karl Prusik. Okay, now he developed a knot that will be used to adhere itself or attach itself to a larger piece of rope. Now I'm going to refer to this paracord as cord, and this rope behind me I'm going to refer to as rope. Okay, so the Prusik is designed to take a cord and lock against a rope. Okay, so I have a small piece of parachute cord here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create just a very simple fisherman's knot to start, and I just showed you that a minute ago. So we're going to use this to create a small loop, and I'll explain what I'm doing here in a second. Okay, so there's my fisherman's knot. Now I have made a small loop. Now to make this Prusik work, I'm going to take this rope, and the cord is going to lay itself on top of the rope, and then I'm going to reach through and pull this in through. So I have a lark's foot or a lark's head. Okay, once you establish this lark's foot or this lark's head, you're going to take this bottom end and run it around again and out again. Okay, from here you have just created a Prusik. Now, Prusik, like I mentioned, is a knot that will take a cord and it'll bind the cord on the rope. See that? I'm pulling down on it. This is an excellent knot to work, to know. It's very popular in climbing applications. You'll see it in canyoneering applications, mountaineering, caving, rope rescue. Some kayakers use it. You might find it, survival type, search and rescue. I may have mentioned that earlier. But one of the good things about this Prusik is it does not cause any damage to the rope. Now, if it starts to slip, which is very rare, but if it does start to slip, it will actually damage the cord itself. The heat will create it'll create heat as it slips, and it'll damage the cord. Now, another thing to mention is right now I have 2 wraps around here, and this Prusik is fairly strong, but if I want to make it bite more, I'll make a 3rd wrap or a 4th wrap, depending on how much you want it to bite. Now, the Prusik, some of the strengths are that it is very inexpensive. Okay, it doesn't cost much because you're buying cord instead of a set of Jumars, or some Petzl ascenders. Those are $75 a pop. So Prusik works very good versus a mechanical device. Now, some of the downsides to the Prusik versus the Jumars is if this rope is really like frozen, full of ice and stuff like that, this Prusik might not bite as good. So in a scenario like that, you might need some mechanical device that'll bite into the rope. Now, the downside to those mechanical devices, those Jumars and those Petzl ascenders, is that they cause damage to the rope if they slip, because they actually bite into the rope, where these Prusiks won't. Now, another positive about the Prusik is they're bidirectional. So, in other words, I can pull up and it'll lock, or I can pull down and it'll lock. In either case, the Prusik will lock. If I use a pair of Jumars, they're one directional. They only go up or down, whichever way they're set to the rope. That's the only direction they'll go. Prusik, you can loosen it, move it up or down. You can pull up and it'll lock, or pull down and it'll lock. Like I said, it's bidirectional. So it's a very good thing. It's great for emergencies. So a lot of rock climbers, you'll see them out there at the crag, and they'll have on their harness, they'll have a small, oh, you'll look at the side of their harness and you'll see that they have a small piece of cordage, you know, tied around the side of them. And but yeah, that's what the Prusik is good for. That's what they use that cordage for. Is if they get stuck on a root somewhere and they need to bail off or something, they'll use a Prusik. Okay, so again, you can put a tremendous amount of pressure on this Prusik and it'll grab, it won't bind. So I'm gonna put some body weight on this. See, this is the end here. I'm just sitting on this Prusik. No problem at all. That's all my body weight. There's no camera tricks or nothing like that. I'm hanging on this thing. And the cool thing about this is, in some ways it's similar to the bowline. In what I mean by that is the fact that you can put a tremendous amount of load on it and it's still very easy to undo. Now, the Prusik, the cleaner that you make it, the better it will work. See how clean those loops are? That's a good looking Prusik. That's what the back side looks like. If you have it all messed up and filthy, a dirty knot, as I would say, it's not gonna work as good as you might hope that it would work. So let me show you another angle and I'll actually tie it again for you. So let me remove this off. We'll do a brand new one. Okay, so you have a rope here that you want to connect a piece of cord to. So you take your cord, you lay it over the rope, you reach through and pull both of these ends through, and you basically create a lark's head or a lark's foot. And all the Prusik is a lark's foot done 2 or 3 times. That's really all it is. You wrap it around again, pull the tails through, wrap them around again, pull everything through again. Now you see how ugly it is right now. You want to clean it up before you can use it. I mean, if you had to use it, it would probably bite, but you know, I would tend to want to see something nice and clean like this. But that's your Prusik. So again, when you pull downward or upward, it binds on the rope. See, now I'll pull upward. It binds on the rope. And the cool thing, like I mentioned, is it'll slide up or down as long as there's not any kind of tension. But then when you need it, you pull. It's kind of like a seat belt. You know, it'll lock when you pull tight, when you pull hard. See, I'm pulling on this with my hands pretty hard and it's not budging. And again, come up there and loosen it, fix it up, clean it up. That's Prusik. And that's my number 3 favorite knot that I think everybody needs to know. Prusik.